Holden dealer team, represented on the front row of the grid by Peter Brock and Colin Bond in the Torana XU1s, the fastest qualifiers, and should provide the main interest in this race. On the second line, Dick Johnson of Queensland, also in a Torana XU1 in car number 7, sharing the second line with John Goss in the Ford GT. Third line, Don Holland, yet another Torana, with Bob Morris. And on the fourth line, Tony Allen in the Chrysler Charger, sharing that line on the grid with the Victorian driver Murray Carter in a Falcon GTHO. So plenty of power in this race, plenty of driving skill. Peter Brock and Colin Bond. Brock the fastest qualifier, 1 minute 51.7, 2.5 seconds faster than Colin Bond. A very fast time indeed. Getting just a little bit better at the start, and Brock left behind slightly, but he's making up ground to be in third place.
Tucked in the middle there between them was John Goss with his fastback Falcon, and Goss in a fair amount of trouble, I think, as Peter Brock endeavoured to help him to be a little more sideways than he originally was as they went into paddock for the first time. And Goss trying to be in all the wrong places for Peter Brock as they whistle down the straight under the Dunlop Bridge and into the braking area of Creek, with Bond in the number 2 Holden dealer team car. Perhaps out to avenge his unlucky fan belt breakage at Surfers Paradise last weekend, which handed the race on a plate to his teammate Peter Brock. A lot of traffic down there at Creek, and the road obviously well and truly awash. Bond, after a very canny start, flinging the car up through the S's, and Goss has managed to still keep Peter Brock behind him as they go up through the S's. There are a fair number of Toranas tucked in the middle of there was Tony Allen's Charger. Now seeing some of the tail enders, Fred Gibson going through, and back with our leader Colin Bond whistling round the top of the lake. The road very heavily wet.
This race over 20 laps of the Warwick Farm circuit, which is 2.25 miles in distance, so that's a total distance for the race of 45 miles or 72 kilometres.
Pressure at this stage still fairly vigorous. The entire field fairly closely bunched up, and obviously Goss there going to be the centre of attention for a while, I'd say, in that rather bulky Falcon, as Peter Brock tries to work out how he can get past.
Into pit straight for the first time, 19 laps to go. Colin Bond really making the others stretch to stay in touch with him. He's opened up quite a substantial lead after only 1 lap, and look at that gap between Bond and Peter Brock, who's now gone past John Goss in the Falcon GT to take over second place. So we have Torana's first and second, Goss in the GT Ford is third, and the Toranas again filling the placings after that.
Well, Brock with Goss behind him, I don't think he's going to let up for a while. I have a feeling that in the light of his practice time, his car is faster than Colin Bond's, and I don't think he'll settle for second for very much longer. Goss still in the picture, literally speaking, down the creek. See what a large car it is. You can see also that despite the relatively unsophisticated suspension of these cars, very wet conditions, but in fact they're getting around the corners quite quickly.
That's Brock still in second place, car number 18, but the leader is Colin Bond in 14, some 100 yards in front of Peter Brock, who we see now, and John Goss in the Ford GT. Fastest qualifying time for this in very similar conditions. Yesterday were Peter Brock 1:51.7, but he's now content with second place for the time being at any rate. Colin Bond 1:53.4, Dick Johnson of Queensland 1:56.1, and John Goss 6.2. So very little between first and second, and very little between third and fourth in the qualifying times.
You can see there on John Goss's back mudguard the imprint, a rather Torana-sized mark, you might describe it as, which he acquired from Peter Brock during a very crowded start just at paddock corner, 100 yards or so after the start line. Goss chucking the big car around. It's in distinctive John Goss colours, pale blue with yellow ornamentation.
interesting, Graham. We have Torana's first and second through Brock and Bond. Goss in the Falcon GT is third. And then we have Torana's fourth, fifth and sixth at this stage.
Now we've got some more action. There's young Bob Morris with Tony Allen behind him in his silver Charger. And I'd say next would be Don Holland. And they're working quite hard as they come through the S's there. Not very much between them, and a lot of correcting lock from these relatively unmanageable cars as they're chucked up through this never-ending series of corners up from Creek, heading up towards the racecourse end of the road racing circuit.
Bob Morris in the Torana XU1 lying in fourth place and pursued by Don Holland, at least by Tony Allen in the Charger. Allen has moved up 2 positions in the last lap. He was initially lying in sixth place, but now he's moved up to fourth place, having overtaken car number 8, which is the Torana of Don Holland, and car number 11, which is the Torana of Bob Morris. Bob Holden driving the Escort GT just in front of car number 7, the Queensland entry driven by Dick Johnson.
Johnson, the Queensland Charger, virtually king of touring cars in Queensland with his bright yellow Torana. And there's now a veteran, Bob Holden. He's been around so long that it's hard to think he's a veteran. He's almost an institution. Bond, by going straight to the lead, has got all the track in front of him at his disposal. He's making full use of it too in these conditions. It's not a type of day in which you restrict yourself to a definite line, and you really need as much room as you can take. And that's the way that Bond's been going through the field, lapping one of the cars at the rear of the field. And you can see the rain and mist here at Warwick Farm. A very wet day with the rain not ceasing at all.